Good morning to everybody present there. I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am, you are.
yes. So thank you for this, introduction, and also to the organizers for having to accommodate us online. Uh, Today, as the opening remarks, talked about gender equity, access, and participation in the digital ecosystem. I would just start off by talking about what is gender equity. When you look at the UNESCO Gender Mainstreaming Implementation Framework of 2003, they define gender equity as a process of being fair to men and women. To ensure fairness, measures must often be put in place to compensate for the historical and social disadvantages that prevent women and men from operating on a level playing field. Equity is a mean, equality is the result. Uh, Even the European Institute for Gender Equality defines equity as the provision of fairness and justice in the distribution of benefits and responsibilities between men, women, and all genders. Gender equity is important because historically societies around the world have deemed females and others as weaker or less important than males. Equity, in its simplest terms, means meeting communities where they are and allocating resources and opportunities as needed to create equal outcomes for all community members. Gender equity means respecting all people without discrimination, regardless of the gender. It also means addressing gender inequalities that limit a person's ability to access opportunities to better achieve better health, education, and economic opportunities based on their gender. It's equity which leads to equality. Gender equality requires equal enjoyment by women and men of socially valued goods, opportunities, resources, and rewards. Where gender inequality exists, it's generally women who are excluded or disadvantaged in relation to decision making and access to economic and social resources. Therefore, the critical aspect of promoting gender equality is the empowerment of women with a focus on identifying and redressing power imbalances and giving women more autonomy to manage their lives. Gender equality does not mean that men and women become the same, only that access to opportunities and life chances is neither dependent nor constrained by their sex. Achieving gender equality requires women empowerment to ensure that decision making at private and public level and access to no resources are no longer weighed in favor of men, so that both women and men can fully participate as equal partners in productive and reproductive life. Now, when you look at the digital age, the gender equity, which also implies that they should have equal access and equal participation, becomes very important because in this information and communication and digitization process is not only about ensuring access to digital tools and employment opportunities in the ICT, and also, gender equality in digitization entails structural and transformative changes that involve every aspect of your digital governance and every actor in the digital ecosystem. It means that ensuring that all the voices and perspectives are heard, including those of gender and ICT experts. Mainstreaming gender in the design and implementation of national digital strategies is essential for an equitable and gender responsive digital ecosystem. Now, if you look at it, you know, the digital divide, which is a measure of the gap between those who have internet or mobile phones access and those who are systematically excluded from using these services effectively. And the gender digital divide reflects inequalities of in digital connection due to gender. And the gender digital divide needs to be addressed importantly for development, especially, if you look at some of these things, poverty and gender, they intersect to keep as much as 80% of the population, mostly women, offline in developing countries. Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia region have the largest gap in terms of gender digital divide in mobile internet, and it is about 70% in South Asia, even though the numbers have improved post COVID, but still it's there. Globally, men are 20% more likely to have access to internet than women, and they are likely, you know, to further rise, but still there's a lot of gap between the access to internet between men and women. Women facing intersectional discrimination have even lower likelihood of internet and information and communication technology access. And for women who do have access, there's a growing and persistent gap in women's meaningful use of mobile technology. Women tend to use mobile phones and internet differently, often less frequently than men. They tend to use a smaller range of mobile services than men, use mobile services less frequently and less intensively than men, and own less expensive and less sophisticated handsets. You know, if you're Even though COVID increases countries' reliance on digital services, women disproportionately suffer since they have less access to life saving information, which is made available by technology. Women and girls, because of this, lack access to resilience building information and are left behind, which further increases the gender inequalities. It is crucial for all response and recovery efforts to include a gender lens. The decisions, which have been made now in terms of digital policy regarding the digital ecosystem will have a long-term effect on the stabilization and resilience of communities, especially for women and girls and for the diversity. And some of the key barriers that I would, like to point out to the gender equity, access, and participation in the digital ecosystem is that the structural inequalities that are deeply embedded in society are the key barriers to women and girls taking advantage of opportunities offered by digital technologies and contributing to leaving women behind in the transition to the digital future. Gender norms and cultural stereotypes often hinder women's access to digital technologies and reduce their education and employment opportunities in ICT related sectors. You know, we have instances of, we have, data which proves that, boys have more access to these technologies than girls in a family, especially in households which have limited resources. Affordability of the internet and digital devices, economic inequalities are both a cause and consequence of digital exclusion. Affordability is cited as the second most frequently barrier to using the mobile internet. Then lack of literacy and digital skills. And this is the most important factor for excluding women from the general access to the digital ecosystem is because of their access to it, their inaccess to education and literacy rates. Women with secondary education are 6 times more likely to use the internet than women with a primary or lower level education. The more advanced the devices, the higher level of literacy needed for its adoption and frequent use of the internet. Moreover, women are generally less likely than men to have digital skills across all levels of digital literacy. You know, and this gap widens along with the skill spectrum. Women are 4 times less likely than men to have advanced ICT skills. And some of the other external factors which are a barrier are the infrastructure, the trust towards mobile operators and digital infrastructures. External factors may be barriers to or enablers of women digital inclusion, as well as digital financial inclusion. For instance, the use of mobile money in the role. There is a lot of role of legal frameworks because you need registration, and there is also a trust element towards mobile operators and mobile agents, and especially some of the network issues that we have, the poor quality of network, and there is especially in rural areas and in remote areas. Now, in spite of all these barriers, women have been there, but still a lot more needs to be done. And digital equity in the gender equity in the digital sphere has assumed increasing importance in the digital and data driven transformation of the economy and governance system. By 2022, 65% of the global gross domestic product has been digitized. But today, about 234 million fewer women than men access the internet or mobile in low and middle income countries. Greater digital access for women would expand their economic opportunities and better their position in the labor market, especially considering the impact of digital transformation that has happened and automation in employment opportunities. And, you know, digital access to technology, that it has also helped them in a number of ways. It has helped women who are migrants, women, who have been using digital skills to empower them and things. Uh, Now, when you look at the theme for the International Day 2023, also, the UN came up with the theme of digital innovation and technology for gender equality. And that itself implies that there is a need to build up, uh, even though the presence of women in the digital ecosystem is increasing, but there is a need to look at it. And there are three key advantages that, if you promote women as entrepreneurs in e-commerce, it can have a lot of advantages. And one of them is it offers lower barriers to entry than brick traditional brick and mortar business. This means that women entrepreneurs can start their business with low startup costs and with the need for a physical stand front, which can be a significant advantage.
Professor
The
Padma,
second
I'm
is
sorry,
it
we'll
enables
have to
women
wind up
entrepreneurs
in.
to reach all over the world. Women entrepreneurs can leverage this global reach to expand their customer base
Professor
and grow
Padma, I'm sorry, we'll
their
have to
local.
wind up in 1 minute's time. I'm really sorry.
Yeah,
Thanks for
I'm just
your.
winding
Thank you.
up in
Yeah.
1 minute's time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Finally, it offers a degree of flexibility in terms of work hours and location. Now, if you look at the digital ecosystem of the Indian startups, you will find that a lot of women have entered the digital ecosystem and are doing well. But then there are certain things that still needs to be done. If you look at it, women now make up 34% of your IT workforce in India, and majority of them are under the age of 30. Yeah. So it's a nice promising data to show that the younger women have more access or are using the digital ecosystem in their favor. And some of the things that can be done in order to, I just conclude that some of the things that can be done for creating enabling and inclusive digital ecosystem is that the government should have gender relevant data sets and statistics. While they are collecting data, it should be collected in a gender desegregated manner, and that will help them reflect on gender issues. There should be gender mainstreaming in planning, which at the policy level itself, and that would help in ensuring cost effectiveness and reduce the risk of issues emerging during implementation. The third thing would be about co-design, which may reduce the unintended negative impact of design processes and digital barriers. And this would enable equality and equity by default. Thank you. Over to you.